Welcome to the Courtship Aftershow, a talk show on the Reader Seeks Romance channel that recaps and discusses former NBC, current USA Network, dating reality show, The Courtship, inspired by the work of Jane Austen. I am Liz Donatelli, and my co-host is my good friend and reality TV superfan, Tiffany Current.
We're back for another crazy freaking episode of The Courtship.
Are you ready to dig into episode 9 entitled The Strongest Prevail?
I am so ready to dig into this episode.
Let's, I guess, start at the beginning. Try to make some sense out of this
the journey.
Crazy Balls episode. Festival of Strength.
Festival of Strength.
The winner gets time with Miss Remy. So that's what so they're performing all these physical feats. It was really a time for them to do some gratuitous shirtless scenes, really. I mean,
they took off the shirts, man. And I got to say, I thought it would be Mr. Judge with the best body, but it was Mr. Hunter.
Mr. Hunter
with the win.
Yes. Even Mr. Combs commented on how his six-pack had six packs.
I love that. I know it was true. When he took off his shirt, I was not expecting that. I was like, good for you, Mr. Hunter. You've been working out, man.
Yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. We have 6 suitors at the beginning of this episode. So they paired them up into twos. So it was Mr. Chapman versus Mr. Bokikio. And they each have to pick up this 150-pound ball that's made of cement.
I was terrified. I don't know about you. I was watching it and I was like, they're going to drop this on their toe. I was so terrified watching Mr. Bokikio struggle with that ball. I was like, oh my God, someone's going to get injured. It was really scary.
I thought someone was going to throw out their back or pop a testicle. I didn't know where this was going to go. His pants, they're bleeding.
That was so ridiculous. It was a crazy thing.
Compelling as anything. I was just like waiting to see how this turned out.
It was compelling, and the people that won were not the people that I thought would win. Like Mr. Chapman won against Mr. Bokikio, and then I think it was but it was when Mr. Judge won against Mr. Nazaire. Like Mr. Judge was like boop boop boop. He didn't break a sweat.
He didn't.
It was like, I'm just picking up a piece of lint. It was incredible. And then I think it was Mr. Hunter against Mr. Combs, and Mr. Combs won. That was crazy.
Mr. Combs, he's a fan favorite. Everyone adores him. And he put his back into it, and he was able to beat Mr. Hunter, proving in Mr. Combs' words, in the battle between dad bods and six packs, dad bods get a win.
Dad bods all the way. He did it. I was so impressed by him. Like, he did a really good job. And then I think later on they did I don't know what's going on, holding a weight over their head after that.
That was called the Log of Terrific Endurance.
Come on.
I don't know.
Look very happy, Nick. And it came down to the final two, Mr. Nazaire and Mr. Hunter. I was super surprised that Mr. Nazaire won. Weren't you? Like, against Mr. Hunter? I was like, this guy, like, he's clearly like building up arm strength from all the pot stirring he's doing, because I had no idea he would possibly win.
Oh, all the pot stirring, and a good one.
Every single episode, let me tell you about this guy. Like, every episode, he's just stirring the pot and mixing things up. He is. Mr. Nazaire.
He was a bad boy in this episode too.
He was a bad boy. He won, and he ended up getting free time with Miss Remy.
Yeah, which again, I still like the way they figured it out. I still don't understand why Nazaire won. He already had like how many? They should have given it to Hunter, because Hunter.
I know.
Like, just give it to Hunter. I don't know, because he won twice. Well, actually, no, he won. I don't know. He won enough. Throw the guy a bone. You know.
He won enough, but Mr. Nazaire got a private date with Miss Remy on the pillow, and he said,
and the blanket, don't forget.
On the blanket, always a blanket.
There was a couple of seconds, there was a few beats where they had the camera focused just on the blanket and the pillow. Yeah.
Let's make sure we have good like blanket game today.
Yeah.
But once again, Miss Remy said, I feel like we have a connection. Like, she could have a connection with like a piece of sand. Every single person she meets, she has a connection with. I'm like, what is? But then he goes on to say, like, I guess they start staring into each other's eyes, and he says, if you keep looking at me like this, I'll have to kiss you. So of course,
I know. So
she keeps looking at him. He kisses her. Like, I mean, it's inevitable. And I was like,
yeah. And I have a comment about the kiss. I think Nazaire gets the loud kisser award because it was loud. It was smacking.
If there's one person to kiss on the show, he's not my favorite, but I have a feeling he knows what to do with his tongue. Like, he seems like he has a lot of experience in life.
He does.
I'm getting like some serious Julia Roberts, Pretty Woman vibes. Like, he knows his way.
I could see him as a gigolo. I could see him as a paid, a gigolo.
Like an escort.
Like an escort. Yeah. I could definitely see that.
I can see that. He has that, that vibe about him where he'd just be very, and he's like British French, whatever. So he'd be very proper. He'd take women around and then he'd show them a good time afterwards. So
and she can't really think he's for real, right? I mean, she must know at this point that he is already an established reality TV star from what was it, Made in Chelsea is what we figured out.
I don't know.
It's like, you can't tell me nobody said anything to her. So she really thinks though that he's on the level. I don't know.
I think she just wants a good time. Like, she specifically said to him, like, I like you because you're fun.
Yes.
And maybe she enjoys, she wants somebody who's fun. She clearly has like a fun personality. She likes to be light, and he's light and fun, and she likes that. But what I didn't like is as they're talking, he's like, let me spill some tea on the guys. Earlier today, Mr. Chapman said he can't quite give up van life. And I was like, this guy is the biggest, he's just like throwing down tea whenever he can, talking about people. It was kind of ridiculous in my opinion. I didn't like it.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll be honest. I didn't think he was telling her anything new. I don't understand. She knows he's very attached to the van. It's mentioned pretty much in every episode. Someone brings up the van.
He talks about van life, #van life all the time. I
don't understand why she reacted like this was such a betrayal on Chapman's part. Like, oh, he hid this from me, but he revealed it to the suitors. It's like, no, everybody knows. Everybody knows. I don't know why she doesn't.
Everybody knows, Miss Remy. But then they finish up their date, and she had a little sit down with Mr. Hunter again.
Yes, and might I add, it was blanketless.
Oh my God, I did not notice that.
Yes, I think only certain dates get the blanket treatment.
That's very interesting.
He's always sitting in just random places with her. And there's always weird camera angles.
Yeah. I think the last time he was sitting on the steps. I think you're right. You've got a good eye. They have a one-on-one date. And once again, she's like, I just want you to let your hair down. Yeah. You seem like you're holding back. And he admitted, which I appreciate, that he's kind of afraid to be vulnerable. And I like him admitting that fact to her. And then she once again asked about his past relationship. And he's like, I know that's been weighing on you, and I know you want it addressed. Crickets. I was like, yes, are you going to address it? No, he doesn't address it.
He doesn't.
Silence. Again, it's
amazing. I admire it though. I admire, of course there's that part of us saying, just give her what she wants. Just open your heart, tell her about your traumatic romantic experiences. But the other part of me is like, you know what? Like, good for him. He's not going to bend to the pressure to reveal something very intimate that, and he's like, I am on television. I really don't know if maybe we're meant to be together. Why would I bare my soul? So actually I respected that, but it was hilarious how she kept doing everything she could to get him to say something. And he's just like, yeah. So I
know you want to hear this. Yep. I totally understand that you want me to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you say that. I appreciate you talking to me about it. And he was like, not going to tell you. Not going to tell you. Super funny.
That's why he didn't get a blanket. They knew he wasn't going to.
Like, he's not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
If he's going to talk about it, we'll give him a blanket. Maybe next time.
And then there is a private date. I don't know when they decide to do private dates, when they don't. I don't know. Sometimes you have to win it. Sometimes she just gives it away, whenever she feels like it. So she does a private date, invites Mr. Bokikio to a Regency spa, a makeshift spa that they put in one of the buildings. Is this the Bridgerton building?
I think it's the same building. I think she's had dates in front of that building, and now we get to see inside of the building. So they set up 2 tubs, some candles, lots of bubbles.
Right. Yeah. Well, listen, I I've watched too many horror films because the minute they stepped into this building, I immediately conjured images of entering a family crypt. And those two tubs to me looked like above ground coffins. Okay. They look like stone coffins. And there's the light, the candles. And I was like, oh, this is creepy. I was like, I don't like this feeling at all.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I didn't
think of it that way, but now that you said it, those tubs, because they were like silver tubs.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, just like this really creepy water. There could be a ghost coming out of it. You're waiting for that hand.
I was waiting for that. I was kind of hoping that would happen just to shake things up, just to see what Bokikio would do.
Let's just get rid of a suitor. This is the fastest way to get rid of a suitor. Get a ghost. That should be the next reality show. It should be like dating in like a horror movie, you know, like finding love. Wouldn't that be fun? And then like a scare, and then they just take it. They just grab the suitor.
That's how they exit the show when she's like, okay, just take him. And they just, first of all, that's great because you really get to know a person in times of conflict, right? In times of tragedy, in times of horror. So why not?
That's a perfect show. Put them in, that's the date. The date is they're in this intense situation. The walls are closing up, Indiana Jones style. Get out. And how you guys work together, that determines everything. But let's get back to it. So they're in there, they're in this room, and they start talking about proposals. And Miss Remy pushes on Mr. Bokikio to say, like, you know, how are you feeling about that, and etc. And Mr. Bokikio's like, well, I don't want to rush into anything. You know, like, are you actually looking for a proposal? Because that's kind of crazy. And I was listening to him speak, and I was like, yeah, that is crazy. And in that moment, Miss Remy's like, are you going back on your word? Yes. Do you really not want to propose to me? And that was the moment for me, Liz. That was the moment when I was like, this girl is delusional. Yeah. She legit thinks she's in Regency era times looking for a match. Meanwhile, Mr. Bokikio's like, I just want to go on a date. Like, can we just go to like just Giuseppe's like pizza place, grab a slice, get to know each other? But she's really looking for marriage. And he's like, I just want to get to know you. I just want to get to know you.
I felt like that was a real slap in the face to him to say, oh, well, now you're going to go back on it. Like, they already had a very in-depth discussion. Remember when he pulled her away, he crashed the dinner party, took her away, explained everything. She seemed okay with the explanation, but she keeps pushing him.
She keeps pushing him for marriage. It's like, let it go. Yeah. You just met him. I
mean, I would love for someone to put her in the hot seat and be like, well, do you really want to get married to this guy or this, like, I would love to, because she just keeps putting it on them. I thought it was really sweet because Bokikio did his best to salvage the situation by saying, I'm rooting for us. Like, I want us to get to a point where, we're together after the show and then see what happens. And that was the other thing. As he's telling her that, then she's like, oh, I've never been around people this honest before. It must be, a New York thing. It's like, I don't know. You say he's not being honest and withholding things and being duplicitous. Then she's like, you're the most honest person I ever met. It must be a New York thing. I'm like, honey, what is going on? What is going on? Like, I think you need some guidance from your court, Mrs. Baker and Miss Cleary.
Her brother knows how to call it. She needs to talk to her brother. Yeah. Dom should have been in that room being like, okay, listen, sis. We need a reality check. Yeah. But I have to admit, in this moment, Mr. Bokikio became my number one.
Wow.
I didn't think that because he salvaged the situation. He's just like, okay, that you feel that way, but I want to just kind of get to know each other and etc. And then it's time for them to get into the tub. I have to admit, I thought this was hot. He starts to like pull off her robe and then he goes in for the kiss.
Yes.
Yeah. That kiss to me was so hot. Like, that's the best kiss I've seen from Bokikio on the show. Like, it was like such a smooth, like, take off, lean in. I was like, this guy has some skills, actually.
Yes, you're right. The way he held himself, the way he held her was starting to undo her dress. And, of course, there's undergarments underneath.
It's a nightmare.
And like turning around and kissing her. Very smooth, very romance novel. book cover that, very much a scene you would read. I was like, oh, he's really playing up the romance hero in this. So they both get into the same tub, half clothed. He had referred to it as being a Remy and Bokikio soup.
Yes,
which she seemed to think was funny. And my first thing was, well, she should like that because we know how much she loves soup.
She loves soup. I know. I thought the same thing when he said that. He was like, maybe that was a callback because he knew she liked soup. Maybe. And she's just like, oh, he knows me. And it's also funny. I remember that.
I actually was thinking if he said that because of the soup thing, he gets points. Tub, half clothed. She's still in her long undergarment.
That's
and he's
allowed. They're trying to stay in proper Regency attire.
I know, but I didn't find that sexy. I don't know. Like,
it wasn't supposed to be sexy, Liz.
Well, I guess.
Not everything's for you.
Although he was rubbing her legs, which I thought was a nice touch.
That was of note. That was kind of hot.
Wasn't it?
A sponge too. And I'm like, where's that sponge going, my friend? Did you see the sponge?
I didn't. She mentions it later, but I don't remember. There were sponges?
There was a sponge that was going underwater. That's all I'm gonna say. Oh, but he was he was rubbing her leg. It was very, I thought that was kind of hot though.
The way he acted was sexy. I don't think it was the sexiest of situations.
Yes.
So after that, I believe we come to Miss Remy's first visit to the suitor's cottage. Is that
correct? Going to talk with Mr. Chapman. That's correct. First visit there. So she goes into the parlor, whatever, and the two of them go to sit on the couch together. And I was cracking up because he's wearing these long socks and no shoes. Did you see that? I was cracking. Like, this poor guy. He's having a serious moment, and he has socks all the way up to his knees. I was like,
it's funny. I thought that too. I was like, well, that's a choice.
They sit down on the couch together. And basically, she confronts him about his van life. And she asks him if he wants to be here. And he says, it's crazy. He says, I want monogamy and I want love, but I don't want to slow down. To her face. Said this to her face.
Yeah,
and it was crazy. It was crazy.
And again, I really dig his lines. Like, I don't know if he practices them or what, or if they just come off the top of his head. But a lot of the lines, a lot of the dialogues he's engages in, it could be in a romance novel.
That line right there, Mr. Chapman line was beautiful. I got very much like Meatloaf vibes of like, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that.
I won't do that.
No.
Yeah,
I won't do that. I won't commit.
Yeah, I agree.
It was a great line.
It was. I was really transfixed by the whole exchange, particularly anything that was coming out of his mouth, because I feel like he was speaking the truth. He was trying to avoid hurting her by being honest.
And he went on to say, like, I think you and I can be the most in love, but I don't think I can give you the life you want. And that is it was so honest and direct. And I think a lot of people might dislike him for what he said. But for me, Mr. Chapman, I thought he was very brave in saying that directly to him, because it was a choice between, like, if I'm going to choose this person or choose myself, I'm going to choose myself, because oftentimes in relationships, we compromise to the point of resentment. And he said, I don't want to do that here. I don't want to do that. I know what kind of life I want. Yeah. And I want to make sure that you're aware of it. So I had to applaud him there a little bit.
I agree. I thought it was a real shining moment for him in a way. Later on, when relaying what happened to all the suitors, he referred to himself as being immature. And I didn't agree with that. I'm like, no, actually, I think you're showing great maturity.
Some people just want to spend their life traveling and around the world. And that's a great life for them. That's a choice and a good experience.
You don't have to settle down in the traditional sense if that's what you feel called to do. So I thought he was being a little hard on himself, saying about how he's being immature and all that. Being mature was telling her, listen, I recognize what you want. I can't give it to you. And he even said, I'm sure one of the other suitors can provide that to you.
Yes, and it's true.
Yeah. Then following that discussion, she was inconsolable. And I'll be honest, like, I didn't quite get it. I don't know why she was so inconsolable and so destroyed and her heart was broken, because she's saying, Bokikio, I'm into you. Judge, I'm into you. So if her heart is all over, like, why? I don't know.
Because I think she's really into Mr. Chapman. She's really into Mr. Chapman. That's one of the guys that she was really falling for. And he's saying, basically, I don't think I can do this anymore. I think she believes he was going to leave. And that's why she was sobbing and crying and went to her sister and her friend to say, like, he can't give up this life. And he specifically more or less said that I don't want to be here in a way.
Right.
And I think that kind of broke her. Like, imagine somebody you really care about saying, I don't want to do this anymore. That's like, it was basically like, to me, it felt like a breakup moment.
Is she being disingenuous with the others, that all of her eggs are in the Mr. Chapman basket, where she's like, well, I'm all in really with him, so I'm so devastated? Because if I was the other suitors, I'd be like, what is this? You're falling apart over him. Obviously you dig him more than any of us. So, I mean, I would leave if I, with the other suitors.
I don't know. Cause if you go back and watch some of the goodbyes for some of the other people, she's a very emotional person, actually. Whenever we see her say goodbye to like some of the people that have gone in the past, like I think Mr. King and Mr. Holland, she really breaks down and starts crying because she built relationships and connections with them, and she was very sad to see them go. So I do believe her emotion in this moment. She could potentially like other people to the same amount, but I think she had a real serious, I don't know if it was a connection or just lust, let's be honest, with Mr. Chapman. And that's why.
Yeah. Well, I would like to ask her to define the word connection. That word has been used and abused on this show so much. It's lost its meaning to me. So I would love to know what she considers a connection. It's always like, well, we have a connection. Yeah. Okay.
I wish I had that many connections in my life. That's very exciting. I want to walk out the door and just like, I think I have a connection with you. Like, I wish maybe we need to be more open. Maybe it's us, Liz. Maybe we're just two closed off, bitter women who are married. I think connections is used loosely here. I don't know, connections. It is a note that she's so distraught over him, but I feel like Mr. Chapman has told her repeatedly who he is. Repeatedly. Yeah. Like, he's repeatedly told her, this is the type of person I am. This is the type of life I want to lead. Yeah. So she was very distraught. It's funny. I was watching this moment when that couch moment of like kind of the breakup where she was so distraught. And I was like, what does this remind me of? Like, who is he? Because I was just trying to figure it out. And what I figured out is he was like, Mr. Chapman is like Daryl Hannah in Splash. He's Madison. If you think about it, he's like this beautiful, exotic thing that was living out in the wild. And it's like, let me go onto land for a little bit and see how that life is. And then he meets somebody who's amazing and who he thinks he could change his life for. But then he starts missing his old way of living, and like Madison, like he can't stay on land forever. And he's like, I want to go back to that life. I want to go back. And I was watching that moment. I'm like, this dude is freaking Daryl Hannah. Wow. Well, that's who he is.
Splash is one of my all-time favorite movies. So I'm glad that you picked it. Yeah, it is. I've watched it 1,000,001 times. So I'm very familiar with everything you speak of. And in the end, if you recall,
yes,
Tom Hanks joins Daryl Hannah in her underwater world. Yeah.
He's like, I have to go back. He decides at first wants to stay on land, but then he goes back with her. So it's like, will this be the same situation? Yeah. Will he go off in that van life and she say, I want to go back. I want to go with you.
Yeah. We move into the farewell dance, the elimination ball. Yep. And 3 suitors are on the dance card. It's Hunter, Chapman, and Combs.
Mr. Combs, yep.
Mr. Combs. He's such a cool dude.
He's a really good dude. I think that was the very first person she danced with. And he's just like, relax. This is your time. I want you to know that I'm here for you. And she ended up keeping him. And he's just like, can I go up to the balcony? He's just so cute. It's like, I love Mr. Combs. He's fantastic.
Sweet. He's very genuine. I don't know. Was there a reason that she picked him to be on the dance card? Did she even have like anything to say to him?
There was nothing to say. They're like, let's just have a dance. She had to pick 3. And I guess he was one of the 3. Okay. I don't know.
And then she picked Hunter, Mr. Hunter.
Mr.
I'm
Hunter.
laughing because this is his big moment to save himself, right? She's like, listen, you're not opening up to me, and that, the same old spiel, like, talk to me. I feel like you don't feel comfortable being vulnerable, which we all know he's not. Yeah. And he just kind of is like, yeah, no,
you're right. I'm not. You know what I like? And she ends up getting rid of him, unfortunately. He's just, and at the very end, he says, you know what? It's because of me. She's a fantastic person, but it's me. Yeah. I was watching him go away in his carriage, and I thought he would be a fantastic hero in a book, actually, because he seems like a person who has this past, this hidden past that no one knows about.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. I'm very curious about it, but I feel like he would be a good hero in a book because we'd get
He
to
would.
peel back the layers. He'd be that stubborn person where it's like, what happened to you? And we'd finally find out what it is, and he'd find love. I think it'd be a good.
Oh, I agree. This whole experience with Miss Remy would be the prologue, condensed,
Yeah.
but
Yes,
a prologue to the romance novel where he finds eventually someone else in his life that he feels he could be vulnerable with. So I definitely think that he could be written as a romance hero. He seemed genuinely bummed to be leaving.
Yeah, he did.
I wonder though if his feelings for her were very strong. I mean, beyond the, I care about you, we're connected, I don't know. I mean, he seemed bummed, but he didn't seem crushed, which I was glad about. And well, that's why he probably protected himself by not telling her much. He's like, I don't know if I'm going to be kicked off.
That's very true. That's very true.
And so
and he left. Yeah.
Who does that leave now? That on the dance card?
Oh
Mr.
my God.
C?
It left Mr. Chapman, Liz. It left Mr. Chapman.
Yeah.
The entire time they were dancing, I'm not exaggerating. And I watched this twice and I had the exact same reaction. Yeah. The entire time Mr. Chapman and Miss Remy were dancing, I was just like, no. I was shaking my head the entire time. Because the entire time they were dancing, she's just like, I thought you left. You broke my heart. And then he's just like, but he's like, I feel like we have what it's real. And then he said, like, I promise you I'm all in. I promise you I'm all in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's just like, oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. And then
I forgive you. I don't blame Mr. Chapman. I was just watching her just like eating this up. And I was like, okay, literally one thing kept running through my mind. Yeah. Like Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost. Like, you in danger, girl. You in danger. Like, that was running through my head the entire time Miss Remy and Mr. Chapman were dancing. I was like, this is not going to work out for you. Like, he has told you to your face. This is not what he wants.
Yeah.
This does not look good.
This is when I expect members of her court to step in. I think this should have been a moment that Dom cuts in. Dom should have cut in and said, excuse me, I'd like to cut in for this dance.
That'd be nice.
Chapman steps aside and he talks to Remy and he's like, Nicole, look at me. It's Dom. It's Dom, your brother. I've got things to say to you. I cannot stay silent anymore.
Yes.
What are you doing? Let this guy go. Okay. There's only room in his life right now for him and his van.
That's it.
Not for you.
Hashtag van life. That's it.
Hashtag van life.
Hashtag not for you. Hashtag not for you.
Right. But here's the other.
That would have been awesome.
It would have been. And and Dom could have used that moment to say, Nicole, do you really feel like this is a lifestyle that you'd be okay with? I mean, you're a software engineer. I mean, okay, you could probably work remotely, but is that what you want? Tell us what you want. And let's talk this out. And maybe then she would have said, you know what, Chapman, I have to let you go. And he'd be like, peace out. And he just, get the motor running.
I wish, because I was watching it and they cut to like her sister. Even her sister was like taking a drink. Like,
she was drinking a lot in this episode.
She was drinking a lot. Like, this is not a good decision. That was like a drink of, this is not a good decision, Nicole. Like, the family was all kind of like,
Even the dad, I think at one point was just like, no.
Even Mr. Remy is usually pretty chill. Yeah. What was great about this moment is as they were dancing and as I was shaking my head, they cut up to the suitors and all the suitors were just like, what are you doing? Like, why is this happening? Like, Mr. was hilarious. Like, really?
Yeah, I know.
They're all like, you're really keeping this guy? Like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Listen, Bokikio has got to be losing heart at this point because he's being told by Nicole.
He needs to leave the show.
I think, again, I really feel like she might end up with nobody at the end. She might not select anybody. First of all, she might have people leave. She already had Captain Kim leave.
Well, I mean, it's Captain Kim. No one's heartbroken over that. But I look, I agree with you. I was in that last moment. I feel like if I was Mr. Bokikio, I would leave, because it's like, if you're going to keep this person who is actually, I think, is a good guy, but who directly told you that he doesn't want this type of life. Meanwhile, you're forcing me to say, will you marry me? Totally unfair.
Yeah.
I would freaking leave.
Yeah.
Mr. Bokikio is a good catch. He's funny, he's cute, he's nice, he has a good job, and he keeps getting pressured to marry her. Meanwhile, Mr. Chapman's like, I'm gonna live in my van, and she's like, okay, that's fine. It's like, come on. It's very unfair.
Honestly, I feel very protective over the suitors in this show. I'm really concerned about their hearts. Yeah.
I was never there. I feel like up into this episode, I think, I don't know, I've talked about a lot of people, but I don't think I've actually said anything unkind or unfair about Miss Remy, because I was always on her side and I always supported her and I always thought she was in it for love. But this episode, it flipped for me. I was like, guys, you got to get out of here. You got to get out. You got to get out of this. You got to get out of this game.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anymore. I feel like this is like, as a little girl, they tell you to look out for red flags. This is like a huge red flag in your face. Like someone literally said it to your face. He held it up to your face and said, this is my red flag. And she was like, why do you keep holding that thing up?
Right.
Get out of that situation.
At this point, I'm thinking that maybe Chapman will end up being in the final episode. Maybe it's going to be down to him and Bokikio. I thought it was going to be Judge and Bokikio, but
I think it's Chapman and Danny B.
Wow. I wonder what the final challenge will be for them, with all these different activities they have them do.
I don't know who will propose. Like, I don't know what the final challenge will be at this point.
That's the other thing. So she wants, on the last episode, last day of filming, she wants to be given a proposal and then she's prepared to accept, like, in that moment. I mean, that's really hard to believe.
That seems like she might be ready for that, but they're not ready for that.
Yeah.
I think it should just end with them agreeing to date each other. Like, that's the final ending. Like,
that should be right.
Agree to date.
That should be it. I mean, she's the one who started mentioning about proposing. Like, that wasn't, I don't think, on anyone's radar until she mentioned it. And again, was that her own doing, or did a producer say, hey, why don't we make it that they have to propose to you? And she's like, okay. I don't know.
It's unclear, because maybe she went in there with certain expectations. Maybe she was told something and maybe the guys were told something else.
Maybe.
So we don't really know what she was told. But I don't know how this is going to end anymore. For me, I hope that maybe next episode feelings are more clear, and maybe we'll get a better idea as to what she's feeling, and maybe we'll get a better idea as to where things will go with her and Mr. Chapman.
Right.
Or how what she said to Mr. Chapman, how that impacted Mr. Bokikio. So maybe we'll be able to dive deep into those emotions between how those guys were impacted by what happened.
Yeah.
And maybe they can push on her for once and say, do you see a future with me?
You're right. You're right. On that note, I guess we'll have to bid ourselves adieu. Farewell.
Farewell.
Your carriage
awaits.